Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Superintendent Effect, a podcast where we highlight strong leaders building strong communities. I'm Ann Brown, and I'm your host. I'm the president and CEO of the Cook Center for Human Connection, and today we're joined by Dr. Tricia Mooney, superintendent of the Hermiston School District in Oregon on the beautiful Columbia River. So we are so excited to be talking to Tricia today. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Thank you, Ann. It's great to, see you. It's been a little bit, but great day. It's sunny. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to chat with you today.
Well, this is exciting. You're probably almost through the first quarter of the year at this point.
We are getting close. It is homecoming week in Hermiston. So all things homecoming busy. We're in the heat of everything that happens in the fall. Conferences come up. Actually, our conferences are the first week in November.
Oh, that's exciting. So homecoming, do you have a homecoming theme this year?
I think their dance is something to do with the tropics or something. This is kind of funny and fitting, if you will, because yesterday was Zoom meeting day. So when you went to the high school, everyone was dressed, professionally in a shirt and tie and then athletic shorts, right? Like, what would you wear on a Zoom meeting? It was kind of fun. And then one thing that's also kind of fun is that across the district, we're one high school district. So there's, that different homecoming, energy, but all of our schools do spirit weeks this week. So everyone's kind of celebrating that it's homecoming week across the district.
Oh, fun. If I would have known it was Zoom week, I would have worn my shorts, but
there you go.
Who are you guys playing?
Tomorrow night we play Sageview. They're a new high school opened in the Tri-Cities. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, so you're in Oregon, but you play Washington teams.
Yes, we actually 8, maybe 9 years ago, we made the move to the WIAA. It was a process, but because of our size, we're the largest district kind of on this side of the state, and our kids would have had to travel 3 and 4 hours to conference games. For us in the eastern part of the state, sometimes we feel like, traveling over to Portland, not a big deal, but the people, on the west side of the state kind of feel like going east. Stop time a little bit, it takes forever. So it was that, but when we calculated the hours that our kids were actually going to miss instruction, it made sense for us. So our farthest game away is Walla Walla, so an hour. And I think the other piece that for me, our parents can get off work at 5 o'clock and make a game. In the Tri-Cities, that's a half hour away. And that wasn't possible when our kids are on a bus for 4 hours. And, there were times, they're getting home at 2 o'clock in the morning from an away game and then get up and go to school the next day, right? So it has been a really good move for us, really good for our kids.
That's great. And you know what? It's not just football, right? I mean, it's volleyball and girls basketball and track,
yes.
All of those things. So that sounds like a really smart move. And I know that Oregon feeling. I have family a little further west than you, and it feels like I know that 12-hour drive from Salt Lake City to Hood River like the back of my hand, but I don't know that they know it quite as well as I do.
Exactly. It probably takes 24 hours the other way, right?
I believe they think so. So that's okay. So I always like to hear about, what prompted you to go into education in the beginning, and what was your path to being a superintendent?
So I grew up in a small town in the Midwest. I'm from Iowa, Northwest Iowa. I actually, in high school, probably wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, beyond college, right? It was kind of known in my family, like, you're going to college, it's what you're doing. And I come from kind of a teacher family. My grandma was a teacher. Actually, I went to college 12 miles from home, so not far at all. My grandma actually had gone to the same college, and when she went, she would walk that far.
The 12 miles?
Yes, she would walk one way and stay for the week for college and then walk home. So she actually got a college letter for walking, which is kind of crazy and amazing in that time, but committed to education. And she went to Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. And I had other family, like aunts and uncles that had gone and cousins that had gone to Northwestern. My older sister went to Northwestern. My older brother ended up at Northwestern playing football. And when I was a senior, I got offered athletic scholarships to go to Northwestern. So it's where I ended up, and Northwestern's a teacher school, known in that area to be a teacher school. So I started college, maybe not really being sure. I had an advisor who was like, I think you should give this a try, right? Like I had coached Special Olympics and Little League and stuff. And I had an advisor who said, take some education classes and see what you think. And it kind of stuck. That started my path. So I went to college, did my undergrad at Northwestern in Orange City, Iowa. I had family in the Portland area. And I moved out the summer after my senior year of college. I had another semester of student teaching. So moved like how many miles from home, and I'm a homebody, right? And finished my student teaching actually in the Beaverton School District, my last semester of student teaching. And then Hermiston is where, I applied for jobs. Hermiston's where I got offered a job. At the time when I moved to Oregon, I thought all of Oregon is green and mountains and trees, right? And Hermiston's in the high desert, so it looks a little bit different. I got offered a job in Hermiston, came to Hermiston and taught Title I at the elementary for 1 year, and then taught 6th grade at the middle school. We had shifted to the middle schools at that time, so taught 6th grade for 5 years. And in that time, it was kind of like, okay, I need to get my master's. I know I need to get my master's degree. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but it's a good time for me. And I had an assistant principal who said, you should go into administration. Oh, I don't think I want to be an administrator. I love the classroom. I like teaching. I like being around kids. And he kind of said, well, it doesn't close a door for you. It might open doors, but you can still be a teacher with a master's in ed leadership, right? So I was like, okay. I got my master's degree. Then I was like a dean of students for 2 years at one of the middle schools. Then they made me an assistant principal between the two middle schools. I went back and forth for 2 years, then got moved to an elementary as an elementary principal for 2 years. And then, more changes in the district. They moved me to the middle school and I was a middle school principal for a year. And in that time, there were some leadership changes at the district, and I kind of thought, I love being a middle school principal, loved my job, but I want leadership to know that maybe someday I'm interested in district level leadership. So I applied for a job in Pendleton, Oregon, which is 25 miles further east, as the director of school improvement and human resources. Kind of thinking like, I'm putting my name out there. I have this job that I love, and I'm probably not going to get that job because people with more experience are, right? And I love what I'm doing, and I got that job. So I moved to Pendleton. I was a director for a year and then was promoted to assistant superintendent. And I did that for 7 years in Pendleton. And then I came back to Hermiston as the assistant superintendent in human resources. A year later, our superintendent accepted a deployment. So I was the interim superintendent for a year. Then in October of 2018, I was named as the permanent superintendent. So it's kind of been a windy path, if you will. And I think when I reflect on it, a lot of times, and I had a conversation with another administrator who's actually working on her doctorate. She asked me just kind of about my path and how did you know it was time to go to the district office? And I was like, I feel like everything just kind of happens like it should. Opportunities present themselves. When it's right, it falls together. And that's kind of what happened for me when I was in Pendleton. Similar to when I started my master's, I was like, oh, I probably should think about a doctorate. I don't know exactly what I want it to be in, but why not? Who would think I could do this program? And so got my doctorate, and been a journey of a lot of unknowns and twists and turns, but it's been good. And I have felt now like I started in Hermiston as a baby teacher, and I'm here now on the other end. So I love that.
Well, I think what's so interesting about your journey is that sometimes you volunteered or took opportunities, but sometimes you were voluntold.
Correct.
And some of those places, when you're voluntold, you're probably thinking, oh, dang, it'd be a lot easier if I would have just stayed doing what I was doing before or whatever. But when you take those opportunities and you move forward, I'm just thinking about every position you just said there, everything from teaching to assistant principal to assistant superintendent to interim superintendent to superintendent. You start just realizing that all of a sudden your career has coalesced to get you all of the right experience to get to the level of leadership that you're at. And then the other thing that I think is so interesting is 7 years in Pendleton, but then also 7 years now at Hermiston. And when I think about really strong leaders leading strong communities, that longevity has such an impact on the entire community when you can have a leader like you helping to support every family in that community.
And I think too, you say that, and one of the things that, leadership, and this isn't without, its challenges, and there are days that are amazing and then there are days that are rough. And I think particularly, leading through a pandemic that, who could have thought of? And the days that I wondered, am I the right person for this? Like the stress of that. And I always have come back to, I started in Hermiston as a baby teacher, and I always have come back to at this part of my career, like, who's going to love Hermiston like I do? And I feel sometimes a little bit like we talk about kids, but it is like, who else do I trust with my 5,300 kids, right? Who's going to love these 5,300 kids like I do, right? And their families and the staff, the 600 staff. And so for me in leadership has been that calling that if not me, then who, right? Who's going to love them like I do? So I have a responsibility.
I feel that every time I'm with you. And I want to talk about the first time I ever met you that I don't even think you remember meeting me at that time. We've become pretty great friends since, but I happened to be at a conference, in a national conference in DC, and there was one session on mental health at the entire conference. And I was newly running the Cook Center. I think this was about 2021 or 22. And so I went to your session. And I just heard how passionately you talked about protecting and supporting the mental health of your staff and of your students. And I was absolutely so moved. Really early on, you had identified and were working towards the mental health of your staff and families. Within a year or two of that, we were starting to do some work together. But just talk about, what was your early identification of this need, and kind of what's the mental health journey that you've taken your district on? Because you really have been a leader in the nation in this, Tricia.
So I think, and I would say part of it is there was a time when the collective, we didn't want to talk, we were afraid to talk about mental health, right? It was taboo. And for us in Hermiston, I think, especially coming out of the pandemic, we were looking at what are the needs of our kids and what are the needs of our families. And, there's always a push. You have to engage families, engage parents. And I 100%, I believe in that. But I always say too, we have to remember that engagement is two-way. Parents engage with us to the extent that they're able as well. And for some of our parents, sending us their most precious being, like, I'm sending you my baby today and I'm trusting you with my baby, that is engagement, right? Trusting someone with your most prized possession is a level of engagement. And we really started in Hermiston to think about engagement doesn't have to look like you showed up to a meeting and signed your name and ate a baked potato. We want parents to come into events and we want to support parents, but it also is meeting parents where they are and understanding what their capacity is and being able to say, like, we're meeting you here and we're going to take it from here. So it doesn't have to be parents coming in. We started coming out of the pandemic. The Oregon legislature said, we're going to allocate 3 different buckets of money. One is for childcare, one is for schools like remediation, and one is for YMCA cities programs to help re-engage our kids. I sat on this webinar and all of a sudden I was like, why can't we have all that money in Hermiston? So we started this comprehensive summer program. We partner with the city so kids get swim lessons, and we partner with Champions that provides extended learning opportunities, but also it's like a 6:30 to 6:30 opportunity because we have families that are working in the fields. We know that real need is a parent, and if you are a parent who is struggling with how am I going to pay the bills, how, all of those pieces, like, that taxes your mental health as well and your capacity and ability to be able to support your children. And so it was this, let's wrap around and figure out how we can help solve this problem and help ease that worry, right? When I know during the summer, my child's in a structured environment, there are adults, like, I trust the people. I'm sending my baby to who, I trust, so I can go do what I have to do so I can support my kid. That really started our, like, we got to do things differently. Our students are coming to us differently. What's interesting is at a national conference, I saw Alex Boyer. And the Cook Center brought Alex there. His message was amazing. And I looked at my assistant superintendent and I was like, our kids need to hear that. His story, his message was like, you're in tears and you're laughing. And Alex is just amazing. But I was like, our kids need to hear that message. And that started our relationship with the Cook Center right there, because we brought Alex in actually more than once. We brought Alex in for a community event. Mother Nature cut short, I will say. She had her own ideas. It was an outdoor concert. It was really about, like, when the school's the heart of a community, it isn't just about what we do 8 to 3. Let's create those connections with our families, and any way we can support a parent in what their journey is helps their child. And when their child comes to us in a better spot, they're more likely to learn to read and to learn math. We've traditionally said school is about, can you read, can you do the math problem? But there are basic needs that have to be met. And it's about how can we not just help the child, but help the parent help the child. So it's been a journey, I guess, that has grown and morphed as we've worked through this. And really, as leaders such as yourself, Anne, have been saying we need to be talking about mental wellness and how are our kids doing. I will say we do work with the Cook Center for Parent Coaching. It is one of the things that I've said, if one parent, if we offer this free to parents and it is anonymous to the district, we don't know who is engaging. But if one parent feels supported at a time when they need support and it helps them support their child, then that's part of our responsibility too. It takes a village and bringing all of us together to raise our community up and support our kids.
Yeah, I also think when you're in Hermiston, I'm going to make some assumptions here. I've been through Hermiston many times, but if a parent needs help for their child, they need mental health help or behavioral health help or something like that for their child, that's a day off of work for them and a day off of work for their child. I'm assuming you don't have a lot of support for that directly in your community. You're probably going to Tri-Cities or you're heading to Portland or you're doing something like that, which is kind of what I dealt with when my child needed help for the first time. As my choices, I was living in Sun Valley, Idaho, and so my choices were 3 hours to Boise or 5 hours to Salt Lake City to be able to get that help. And what I love about you guys having coaching is that that's something that's done for the parent in the privacy of their own home, on their schedule. They have a relationship with their coach. They can meet with them 30 minutes a week and really set goals for how to have a stronger family and how to support their child who may be struggling, or maybe they just need support for themselves. It's sort of that everybody needs a coach mentality. Yep. And I know you've even been part of one of our campaigns that we do with a group called QB United that is kind of everyone needs a coach, because even if you are an NFL Super Bowl winning quarterback, you still have a coach. And it's okay. It's okay to always be striving to be just a tiny bit better. We've really appreciated that partnership as well.
Well, and I think too, Anne, I can make the correlation to coaching, right? Like kids are coming to us, they need to be coached different. Well, kids today probably need to be parented differently than how some of us were parented, how my parents parented me. There were different resources then. There were different resources. And I always think when you know better, you should do better. And when we have resources to support our parents, and I would say this too, our teachers are parents, right? Our staff are parents. So it's open to our staff as well as a parent to say, like, what do you need as far as support? How can we help you as we all move through this crazy journey, right? Kids come to us different, and every parent has the day where, for whatever reason, whatever's coming at you, like, really, like, can I do this today, right? And you hit on this. That doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Sometimes you just need somebody to say, hey, you're doing a good job, keep going. And that support too is part of what a coach does. For our parents, when you're working long days, maybe money's tight and you're not sure how you're going to pay the bills, you're frustrated and you're tired, like, it's nice to have someone say, hey, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, you're doing okay. We're going to get through this and we're going to help you. That's exactly our hope, is to hear, someone in your seat be saying that to their families. One of the stories I love from you too is the first time Alex Boye came, because Alex's message is around you are a 10. One of the ways he demonstrates that is he takes a $10 bill and he stomps on it and rolls it up and does all of this. And then he asks the kids, who wants this $10 bill? And of course, every kid in the audience raises their hand, right? And he says, well, why? It's been stomped on. It's even got a rip on it and it's been crumpled up. Why would you want that? Well, it still has value. And I just remember at the end of that, you saying, if one kid walks out feeling like they were a 10, then we've won. And you told me later that was a real story.
Yes. So we had, our counselors and social worker, we had people there ready to support our kids because it's a heavy message. And part of it is the reflection on yourself when you hear Alex's message about how we think about ourselves sometimes. But there was a student and she stayed after and said, at the beginning of this, I thought I was a 1 and now I think I'm a 10. Oh. And we can talk about that, but like seeing, like, I have a kid face when I say that. And the student that said that wasn't the student that was kind of like, hey, we know these kids are struggling with some stuff right now. We want to keep an eye on these certain kids, but it wasn't that student. And I think that for me was wow, we don't know. Yeah. We don't know who's looking at themselves right now as 6. I thought I was a 1. Now I think I'm a 10. And we do that to ourselves too sometimes, I think. But when you hear Alex's message, I think as an adult, it's like, remind you to check yourself as well. Like I can look at all kids and be like, they have all the value, like they're all 10s, right? But Alex's message to kids was like, well, somewhere along the line, you thought you were a 10, and then some, and maybe it's a day where you don't think you are. But as adults, we do that as well. And I think that is, so our parents the same way. Like there are some days when you're like, I'm killing this parent gig, right? Like, this is awesome. My kid's not in trouble. Like their room's clean, whatever. And then there are days when it's like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job. And I think, just that it's the coaching, it's the message all the way around that, we all have value, and it takes all of us to support one another.
And that's when we start breaking down the walls of stigma, right? That's when we know it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to need help. Let's go on to another quick couple of other topics. You and I are both very involved with AASA and the Superintendents Association, and you guys are a Lighthouse System, which is a pretty big honor within the National Superintendents Association. So tell us about being a Lighthouse System. What does that mean?
We actually were recognized by AASA as a lighthouse district in Hermiston, and it really had to do with our community connections and how we support our community. And in that, and I'm going to say some of the things that I've talked about before, right? Like our summer program, because what we look at in Hermiston is like what resources are available to us, right? And it takes a village. Like, what are all the skills of the people in our village? How can we all work together? So it isn't just about how is the community supporting the district. It is also about how is the district supporting the community. So our administrators are involved in service organizations. Like, we also need to give back. It's a two-way, like how we support each other. And one of the things that, over my time here as the superintendent, we've added in counseling, we've added social workers, we've added behavior specialists. And part of that is any support. You mentioned this when you talked about how it's so hard to get mental health support for your child, like, and everyone's busy. There is a shortage of resources, right? But any support we can provide to a student in a building might open up a spot for someone else who needs it. In our community, right? When we have our social workers able to work with students, not only does that maybe keep a kid in school today, right? They're not missing a day of school. It's not just about the instruction, it's about the connection with the other adults and the supports that are available in the school. But that also helps support our community because there is now a spot that's open for someone else that needs it. We have a partnership with Umatilla County for wraparound services. And part of this is we look at, as a district, we support students, right? We have the capacity to support students. So when we partner with the Cook Center on parent coaching, as a district, we don't have the staff to provide that coaching directly to parents. We don't have the resources for that, but we can partner with someone who can be a part of our village then to provide that support to families. So part of that recognition was how we use all of those pieces to come together and say, this is our village and this is how we support our kids. It takes all of us working together.
Well, and we are so proud to be part of that system that you've put into place. And we haven't talked a lot about academics, but I know that's extremely important in Hermiston School District. And I know you guys are doing an amazing job. And you serve for the state of Oregon as the vice chair of Oregon's Quality Education Commission. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so the Quality Education Commission in Oregon is a legislatively identified commission, if you will. So there are 11 commissioners appointed from across the state by the governor, and our charge is to every 2 years submit a report to the legislature that outlines the funding necessary to support Oregon's quality education goals. I think that part of being in leadership is giving back, and that's my way to give back. Not just like I want to give back to Hermiston, and I talked about how Hermiston's my baby. I don't know if anyone will love Hermiston like I do. It's also my responsibility to say, when I'm no longer in this seat, how is K-12 education in Oregon better because I sat here? Probably said village a million times. We all need to be a part of something bigger than us and know that there's value in, like, I'm going to show up for somebody else because someone else showed up for me. At graduation, when I talked to the seniors, I talked about, like, you've done this K-12 journey and you're where you are because someone else paved the way. And now that someone else paved that way for you, it's your job to do that. Like, it's your job to look back and say, who can I help? Reach, your hand back and help someone behind you too, and make a path for someone else. And I think that as I get closer to the end of my educational career than what I am at the start, this is my 31st year, I think that it's critically important to be able to say, how are things better because of what I did?
Well, Tricia, I am sure there's so many things that are better because of what you've done. All I can say is if I was raising my kids in Oregon, I'd want them in Hermiston and I'd want them there with you. Hermiston is so lucky to have you being their strong leader, leading their strong community. And I've just loved getting to talk to you about this and getting to highlight all the amazing things that you're doing there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you and your leadership as a part of this as well, and definitely the partnership with the Cook Center because it has helped us provide opportunities for our students, our families, our administrators, and all of us to better support kids.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll talk again soon.